Good. Good morning. It's Ebrahimoff, the Haftorahman, and this week's Haftorah is possibly the most spiritually elevated passage that we hear out of the books of the prophets, out of the Nevi'im. Why would I say such a thing? Is if you look at the Torah reading, if you look at the Parsha, you'll see that we read the Parsha that gives us the revelation that you have the convergence of God and man, as close as you're going to get to that, because there it was at Mount Sinai, 2,448 years after creation. The Israelites finally have left Egypt, and God is saying, I have some news for you. And you hear the revelation from Mount Sinai. Then, in an effort to continue this level of spirituality, because to read the text, yes, it's important to be able to read the text, making time for that. To sing it, it's a greater expression of joyousness. Talking is the most modest level of communicating. Singing is the next level up, that you put it to song. Comprehending it is a lifelong project because there's a depth to the understanding. And the first place you go is, what was this person about? Isaiah, Yeshayahu. He was the greatest prophet after Moses. Moshe had this ability to have a prophetic experience, it says, at will. Isaiah, however he got into the prophetic experience, what he did get into more frequently than any other of the Nevi'im, of the prophets, was that he was able to speak the truth about the past, the present, and especially about the future. It was brought up this week, a question of how many people could actually have a prophecy. And I believe Dr. Goldfarb will explain that in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, in the time of King Solomon's temple, the Gemara says that equal to the amount of people that left Egypt were the people that could have a prophetic experience. So this was, I get the nod, this was common, I believe. If you look at that population, your next door neighbor was a prophet, the one on the other side was a prophet. Men were prophets, women were prophets. Okay, what that was is an alignment of one's soul to the source soul. There's a harmony and a beauty and a clarity that when you watch certain electrical devices that are monitoring different patterns and valences, you'll hear, let's say for when a voice is being recorded on a graph, you'll see it's going up and down and up and down. The louder it gets, it goes higher. The softer it gets, it goes lower, like that. The soul's monitor is you want streamline, you want straight, you want harmony, peacefulness with God. That harmony and peacefulness brings an individual a tranquility and a peace because he's connected into the source of all beauty. Your soul was created by God. You want to be tranquil and peaceful and connected to life, giving force. Many people never have that opportunity. Many people never strive for it. We see that there are great men and women that spend a great deal of their time meditating. What we do today is an afterthought of what the prophets used to do. They would purify themselves. They would avoid sinning. And they would provoke, they would be going after connecting to God. And that was a privilege because you got to feel a special feeling of happiness and joy and understanding about the world you live in. So today we're going to read from Yitro, the Parsha Yitro we read, and now we're going to do the Haftorah, which was picked from the book of Isaiah, Yeshayahu. And as you've heard me say, there's about 80 Haftorahs. Yes, because there's not only 54 Parshas, but you have for the Chagim, for the holidays, Haftorahs. And I believe it's about 18 of the Haftorahs come from Isaiah, Yeshayahu. No one else has that many. There are others that come close, but Yeshayahu has the most. And we know a little bit about him. He lived in the time before the temple. Well, while it stood, he lived. He was also not only a prophet, but he was a Kohen. And he had family in the royal administration. So this was an interesting person to listen to what he had to say. And here we're going to see what he has to say in the Ma'aseh Merkavah. The Merkavah was God's heavenly chariot. If you look to see, Lahavdil, Air Force One, how does the most powerful person get around the world? That was their vehicle. Transform that into a spiritual vehicle. Isaiah imagined what was it like to be in God's heavenly chariot, the vehicle that moves through time and space. It's a magnificent seat to get into the chariot. Until today, you have Kabbalists, the people in Sfat even, they would meditate, imagining what would it be like. They separated themselves from the physical world. What they did is they immersed themselves in a world of spirituality, in a world that they elevated themselves away from just the physical to the eternal source of blessing that Jewish people are striving for. What's the big deal about being Jewish? To do Shabbos, to do kosher? That's physical being. The real gift is to be able to feel a heavenly and godly connection. And if you're lucky enough to transmit that to other people because they want to feel a little bit of heaven here on earth. So here you have in this Haftarah, it's in 3 parts. The first part we're going to read is about the Merkavah. So it starts off, and you could see it does not start off chapter 1, verse 1, which is where Ezekiel started off his vision of God's heavenly chariot. And the rabbi said that this passage is not supposed to be treated lightly, and it is something that should be taught only to knowledgeable, understanding, and well-intentioned people. And it starts, chapter 6, verse 1. Thank you for being patient through the introduction. Bishnat Mos HaMelech Uziyahu. Here, in the year of the king Uziyahu's death. So that's the way that they would be able to tell time in those years. It didn't mention the year. Va'er'eh et Hashem, and I saw God, Yoshev al Kisei Ram Venisa, and I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, which was exalted and sublime. Vishulav mileim et hahechal, and its train was filling the Beit HaMikdash. So here is Isaiah meditating, however he got into this prophetic trance, and he began to experience a direct connection to God. And he's saying, guess what I saw? He didn't say guess what, but we're seeing that he wrote, or it was written on his behalf, that he saw God's throne. Then it goes to Pasuk Bet, and it says, Srafim. This was a type of angels, fiery angels. Omdim mima'alo. And there were these fiery angels so that they would be standing around him, around the throne. Each one, sheish kanafayim le'echad. So here, Yeshayahu is saying, I see that there are these fiery angels surrounding the throne. Two of the wings of the angels, they were covering their face. And two of the wings were covering the legs of the angels. You got two more wings, what do you do with them? And of course, angels fly, so they needed two wings to fly. So they had 6 wings. It's like cover the eyes so they wouldn't see God directly. Cover the feet, because the feet were the lower extremities of the angels. So that was less pure. So they were modestly covering that. And that they had to get around. Here we go. This is the source text to what we say in Kedusha. That when you say Kedusha, it comes from here. V'kara zeh el zeh ve'amar. Each angel called out to the other and said. So here, there was a conversation between the angels. And the angels were saying, you go first, you speak first. And the other one says, no, I'm not worthy, you should go first. Finally, they come to the understanding, let's all say it together. V'kara zeh el zeh v'yamar, and here we go. Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakot, Milo Chol Haaretz Kivodo. Holy, holy, holy. Why do we go tippy toes when we say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh? Is that when the angel spoke God's name, that literally the house would rock. And to mimic, and not mine, because that would be silent, but to mimic that movement in the temple of the Beit HaMikdash shaking because of the thunder of the voice of these angels proclaiming God's secret holy name, the house would shake. So we try to think about that when we're saying Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. We're thinking, let's lift. But I think more specifically, it's to remember that there was a trembling in the building. And you're in a building, it's steady. What does it take to get it to shake is where others are moving and it makes the building shake. So here you have this description of what it was like. The vision, here's a little explanation. The vision progresses from awesome to frightening. As the building begins to shake with thunder and fill with smoke, Yeshayahu expresses his fear that he cannot survive the experience. He suggests that neither he nor the society in which he lives is sufficiently pure of speech. One of the angelic beings cleanses him with a fiery coal from the altar. So you can see, to monitor your thoughts, to be careful what you say, because it has an impact on this world. We hear it, Baruch she'amar v'haya olam. Baruch, blessed, she'amar, that God spoke, v'haya olam. So the power of speech to create is very powerful, but also the power to damage and destroy is also to be taken quite seriously. We speak, Vayanu amos hasipim, the doorposts shook, mikol hakoreh, from the sound of the call. Vehabayis yimolei ashon, and the house was filled with smoke. What house? We're talking about the Beit HaMikdash. What specific area of the Beit HaMikdash? Presumably would be the Kadosh and the Kadosh HaKdashim, where the Holy of Holies were. The Omar, and I said, Isaiah says, Oi, and Anamanapia, Oi li ki need Macy. He says, uh-oh, this is not going to be good because I have spoken Lashon Hara myself. And we know that that is severe as far as when you talk about someone else, the Malachim, the prosecuting Satan angel says, oh, Ebrahimoff thinks he could talk. You know what? Let's see what else he said. Maybe he doesn't always say good things about other people. Ki ish temei sfasayim anochi. So Yeshayahu is telling on himself that I am of impure lips. Uvitoch am temei sfasayim anochi yoshev. And here I live among a people of impure lips. Ki es hamelech Hashem sevakot ra'u enoi. That here, for my eyes have seen the king, Hashem sevakot. That was a double faux pas. Well, let's just say, to thine own self be true. Okay, he said, you know what? Maybe I'm not the most holy of people. I've said things I shouldn't have said. But when he went after all of the Israelites, saying that they are a nation of people that talk slanderously about others, he shouldn't have done that. And we know that by seeing the response, God's response to that. And he says in the next pasuk, Vaya'af elai echad min hasrafim. And right away, one of the fiery angels uses his two flying wings, and he flies over to me. Uviyado ritzpa, and holding a hot coal in his hand, bemel kachayim, with tongs. It has the word lokeach. They took the coal with this tongs, T-H-O-N-G-S. No, here it's spelled T-O.
Well, because it was dealing with Lashon.
With forked tongue.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it was like this, you see? Forked tongues.
Mm-hmm.
I made that up. Lakach me al ha-mizbeach. And he took this coal from the mizbeach, from the altar, with the tongues, and he's flying towards him. Vayigal alpi, and he touched it to my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Vayomer, Hine naga ze al sifasecha. And the angel says to me, here, this touched your lips. Visar avonecha. Your transgressions have been removed, turned away from your mouth that spoke lashon hara. V'chatascha techupar. Your sin has been atoned. Whoa. Isaiah meditating what he's seeing, what he said. Instant response that you don't talk that way. But he had the zechut, he had the privilege of the angel cleaning up his mouth from having spoken bad lashon hara. The weightiness of this, how this man took responsibility for himself. He was just telling the truth. Lashon hara is the truth, but it's negatively impacting people's opinions. So the angel said, Isaiah, you should know better. You can't talk that way about God's people. Hashem asks for a volunteer to be his messenger. And Yeshayahu enthusiastically volunteers. However, the message that he is given is a harsh one. You see the storyline, the Haftorah, it's, I see God, I see what's going on, and then he says something, there was dissonance here. So now the angels are trying to clean this up, straighten it out. However, the message that he is given is a harsh one. He must warn the people that if they do not take heart what they are hearing and seeing, they will not be able to change their ways. So Isaiah continues in Pasuk Chet.
That was their chet.
Yes.
They had to change their evil ways.
Thank you, Carlos Santana. Va'eshma kol Hashem Omer. And I heard the voice of God saying, Et mi eshlach umi yelech lanu. God is saying, I got to deliver a communication to humankind, and who is the one to do this job? Va'omar. And Yeshayahu says, Hineni. It says, Hineni shalachani. It says, send me. Send me. He's thirsty for the privilege to be a Navi, to have a prophetic experience, to speak to the Jewish people, to castigate them into behaving properly. Vayomar. And God says in Pasuk 9, Pasuk 10, Lech, va'amarta la'am hazeh, go and tell these people, Shimu shamoa ve'al tavinu. You always listen, but without trying to understand. This is a trappings of having a Yeshiva Dov Revel education that they teach you Birkat Hamazon, and you say, Baruch Atah Hashem, and you could repeat the whole thing by heart and not understand one word. There's no deep meaning to understanding, connecting gratitude and gratefulness and appreciation. So people that can't read Hebrew, that can read it in English, are better off because presumably they'll understand. Now, Dr. Gofar will dispute that by saying it's better just to say it in Hebrew without comprehension. That's okay. So then read it in English and in Hebrew. Ura'u ra'o va'al tadeu. And you always see, but without trying to know. There's something here that we see repeatedly is don't just walk through life like a parrot, like a robot. You're a human being. Of all of God's creations, You have the ability to comprehend, to think, to cognate, to make a difference through your bechira, through your choice. Use that bracha. And it continues. Hashmen lev ha'am hazeh. The heart of this nation has been made thick. And I think the word hashmen here is like shemen or fat, that you have a heart, but you're not feeling it. The aznav hachbed ve'enav ha'sha. Its ears are heavy, its eyes are dim. You see in Hallel, enayim lahem velo yirahu, af lahem velo. So people, they got ears, but they're not listening. They got eyes, but they don't see what's going on. Pen yireh ve'enav uvaznav yishma, so that it cannot see with its eyes or hear with its ears. Ulevavo yavin, and worse off, with their heart, they don't understand. They just go through the motions, and they don't feel their connection to God, the privilege. They don't feel for other people. They don't even feel for themselves, that they're damaging their souls. Vishav v'rafalo. And now to return and heal itself. That God is sending Isaiah to heal the people from their sinning, from their ways that they shouldn't do, idolatry, adultery, murder, and worse. The news gets worse. They will not depart from this destructive path until it actually leads to desolation. They ignore it. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Each one of us, God forbid, we should have an ailment. It's not so bad. Eventually, it gets worse and worse and worse till it kills us, God forbid. Yet like a tree which sheds its leaves and looks bleak, yet comes back to life. That prosperity is cyclical. The good times, we think they'll stay forever, but they don't. So how do you prepare for the winter of life? So too the Jewish people have an indestructible core of holiness. So people ask me, how do I feel connected? I say, I don't know. But if you ask the people that were connected, the first thing is they tell you, you started off connected and you disconnected yourself. It's not like I never had it. You started off, you were created by God, you were born, you had a soul through a connection with God. So now the task is to reconnect. Va'omar ad masai Hashem. And I said, for how long, Hashem, is this going to go on? Va'omar ad asher im sha'u orim me'ein yoshev. And he's answered, until cities lie deserted without inhabitants. Do we know a city that laid there without inhabitants? Jerusalem, when the temple was destroyed. That's how much it took. Uvatim me'ein adam. And batim, bayis, me'ein, ayin, without adam, without man, ghost town. V'ha'adamah tisa'eh shemamah. And the land lies deserted and desolate. Heavy duty stuff. V'richak Hashem es ha'adam, until Hashem has driven away the people. V'rabah ha'azuvah bekerev ha'am, and much has been abandoned all over the land. Doesn't look good. Yud Gimel. V'od ba'asiriyah. If there is 1/10 left in it, we talk about decimation. This is it in Hebrew, asiriyah, that only 1/10 will be left. V'shava v'haisa leva'er, and it will be consumed again. Ka'ele v'cha'alon, like an elm or an oak. Asher b'shaleches matzeves bum, whose leaves have fallen and the trunk remains, that you see one time of the year. There's a tree with the branches and the leaves. And now, the tree is still there. There's no greenery on it anymore. Zera Kodesh Matzavta. The holy seed is its trunk. So at the root of things, you have the Jewish people. They flourish at times, and at times they have to pay for their sins. The next part of the Haftarah takes place 2 generations later. So this is the end part of the Maaseh Merkavah, of the secret holy stuff of God's heavenly chariot. It now breaks into 2 other parts of the Haftarah. We're sitting at 7 o'clock. We have 15 minutes to go. The next part of the Haftarah takes place 2 generations later. It seems to be disconnected from the Haftarah, the first part. Achaz is king, and Yehudah, the state of Yehudah, has suffered tremendous defeat at the hands of its neighbor to the north, the kingdom of Israel. Can you imagine? There's like a civil war going on. Achaz hears of an alliance between Israel, that's from the 10 northern tribes, and its longtime foe, Arami, who planned to attack Yehudah together to dethrone them and replace him with a puppet of their choosing. He is understandably shaken. So we now have to take a step back, change the scene, close the curtains, open the next curtain for the next scene, and what you're looking at is bizarre. You have what used to be the 10 tribes, part of the united monarchy. They're no longer united. Not only that, they have a contentious relationship, so much that they're willing to collaborate with an outside nation, the Arameans, with the 10 northern tribes, to go and attack the Beit HaMikdash. They want to displace the people that were worshiping Hashem. This is bad. Vahi bimei Achaz ben Yotam ben Uzziah, who, in the days of Achaz, the son of our favorite king, Yotam ben Uzziah, who, Melech Yehudah, king of Judea, Allah Ritzin Melech Aram. So we see that they went as far as the king of Aram. His name was Ritzin, Ufekach ben Remalyahu, and a king named Pekach, the son of Remalyahu, has God's name in his name, Melech Yisrael, the king of the 10 northern tribes, Yerushalayim, that these 2 geniuses are coming to attack Jerusalem, La Milchama Aleha, to fight a war against it. V'lo yachol lehilachem aleha. However, they were not successful, but they could not conquer it. Vayugad leveis David lemor, and the Navi, the prophet, spoke to David, a different prophet, Nacha Aram al Ephraim. Dr. Goldfarb, when it says David, it's really talking about Yehudah. Is that correct?
Where do you have David?
Vayugad leveis David, to the house of David. It's talking to the... Nacha Aram al... Thank you. Nacha Aram al Ephraim. Aram has allied with Ephraim, the allies. Vayona levavo ulevav amo. His heart and the heart of his people were shaken. Kinoah atzei ya'ar mipnei ruach, like the trees in the forest shake with the wind.
We have that word in its connection with the Parshat.
Go ahead.
The people shook at Har Sinai, same word.
Interesting, because the text that we started the Haftarah and what we're reading right now is not continuous. So the men of the Great Assembly may had in mind what Dr. Goldfarb just pointed out, that trembling was what they were doing before God. And now these people were trembling, but they were told, have no fear. Yeshayahu is told to go with his son symbolically named Sha'ar Yashuv, that we have the remnant will return. Rabbi Freifeld's yeshiva, Sha'ar Yashuv, to meet Achaz as he is inspecting the fortifications of Yerushalayim. Their message to him is that his enemies are of no consequence and will not succeed in their plan. Indeed, they will be conquered by Assyria in just a few years. So this is when you have faith. And faith is the ability to live with uncertainty about something. And here, they're uncertain. Are we going to make it? And then God says, you're going to be fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. Just stand your ground. Vayomer Hashem el Yeshayahu, say no likras achaz. And now Isaiah is sent and to go to speak with Achaz, Asher u'Sha'ar Yashuv v'necha, and his son's name was Sha'ar Yashuv, this king Achaz. El Kitzei Te'olas Habrecha Ha'Elyona, and he specifically instructs him where to go. At the end of this aqueduct of the upper pool that you had in Jerusalem, El Misila Sedei Koves, on the path of the washing field. I think this may be where they had Ein Rogel also, was where they had the running water in the city of Jerusalem. And the washing field was where the young ladies would wash the laundry. My guessing that connection.
Sounds right.
It says, "Ve'amata elav hishamer ve'hashkeit al tira." Have no fear. Say to him, keep calm. Isaiah is speaking to the king. Keep calm and quiet. Hashkeit, sheket, shh. Quiet. Al tira. Have no fear. Tell the king that God is supervising. Ulevavech al yerech, and that your heart should not become faint, should not become weak. Mishnei zanvos ha'udim ha'a shenim ha'ele, from these two smoking torch butts. Bechariaf Ritzin ve'Aram uven Remalyahu, from the anger of Ritzin and Aram ben Remalyahu. It says, these guys don't have a prayer. Ya'an, Pasuk 5. Ya'an ki ya'atz alecha Aram ra'ah. Being that Aram has plotted evil against you, Ephraim uven Remalyahu lemor, with Ephraim and the son of Remalyahu saying, Na'ale Yehuda unikitsena. Let's go up to Yehuda and harass it. V'navkiena eleinu, and split it up for ourselves. Good luck. V'namlich melech besocha, and then we're going to put a king in there to replace them. Is Ben Tav Al. The name of that person would be Ben Taval. Now we go to the last two psukim of the Haftorah.
Why is Hashem saying don't worry about these guys? Because Achaz was a Russia. So why is Hashem back? Achaz was a bad guy. So why is Hashem supporting them in this?
Because at the root of things, Israelites is his good nation.
And they have no right, because the Jews have no right to get the Goyim to come after other Jews. In other words, and that happened later in history, right? When the Maccabees, the end of the Maccabees was when the brothers of Maccabees were fighting, and they got the Romans. One of them got the Romans to be on their side, and the Romans wiped everybody out.
You don't even have to go that far, Dr. Goldfarb, because you had a civil war amongst the Jews that became Hellenistic in behavior, and that they turned against the Haredim, the Maccabee family, the Hashmonaim, which they don't emphasize too much.
Because them themselves, it became degenerate after a time.
Yeah. If I may proceed, last two psukim. Watch this. Ki yeled yulad lanu bein nitain lanu. For a child is born to us, a son is given us. This is predicatory. Vatihi hamisra al shichmo, and sovereignty will be on his shoulders. Vayikra shemo, his name will be called Pele Yoetz, the advisor of wonders. Kel Gibor, mighty God. Aviad Sar Shalom, everlasting Father. Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace.
Guess who stole that little section of Pesukim? Yeah.
Well,
And used
if
it
they
for their
were
own
Jews,
purpose.
at the time, they didn't steal it. If it was afterwards, then we can go according to Armin's description. Lemarbeh HaMisra, what he meant to say is Christianity loves this verse because they're talking about the Messiah. Lemarbeh HaMisra, and all of us, Talmidei Chachamim knows what that was about. Lemarbeh HaMisra u'leshalom ein kates, towards greatness of sovereignty and for a peace without end, no end. Al kisei David ve'al mamlachto, upon the throne of David HaMelech and his kingdom, lahachinosa u'lesa'ada, to establish it and to support it. B'mishpat u'v'tzedakah, in justice and righteousness. You hear the buildup of a happy completion here. Me'ata ve'ad olam, now and forever. Kin'at Hashem Sivakot ta'aseh zo. The zeal of Hashem Sivakot will do this. It's only the passionate, and it's only the ones that are true believers to the core about their purpose and their reason, the etra, for existence. This is the message that prosperity is cyclical, or spirituality, connectivity to God is cyclical. But here the Haftorah says we're going to come back. We'll have a leader, and we're going to come back, and we're going to be planted firmly in the city of Jerusalem ultimately. So you have three very, very important parts to this Haftorah. One, you started off with the connectivity to God, with the vision of God's heavenly chariot by Isaiah. Two is war with our people closest to us, our brethren. We're going to fight a war, and God says, don't worry. And then finally, it's like, what's going to be? These are the three questions that human being asks themselves. Who am I? How am I connected? Am I safe? And where am I going?
That's 4 questions.
So here, the Haftorah brilliantly answers all these questions about safety, connectivity to other Jewish people, and destiny. Thank you.
Ruby, rock star performance today.
Abe
Beautiful.
Altman, thank you.
Really, a rock.
And Ruby, you